we're going to make a big batch of chicken noodle soup. So I'm going to start by putting my chicken thighs, and then I have 2 split chicken breasts into my pot here. And we're going to let our chicken start to cook up. The broth will make a great for the soup and also get nice and tender. So we've got our chicken. We're going to have that start to boil there for our chicken noodle soup. And then we're going to add salt, bay leaf, and pepper to this to make our broth. So we want to salt this up pretty good because it's going to be the base of our chicken noodle soup and it takes a lot of salt. So we're going to add in about, I want to say almost a tablespoon of salt. And then we're going to add in about a teaspoon of ground black pepper and 2 bay leaves. And we're going to let those that chicken stew in that salty, peppery broth until it's cooked all the way through, and then we'll take it out and cool it to shred. So I'm just going to do a really simple chicken noodle soup today. So it's just going to be carrots, celery, onions, and leeks, and then of course noodles. So just really a basic one. Sometimes I'll go a little bit more and I will add in, corn, and that's really only the other thing extra I add in. But I find if you've never made chicken noodle soup with leeks before, add it. It makes such a lovely broth. Leeks have an onion flavor to them, and it is so good. And then even the leeks in themselves are delicious. I absolutely love them. So we're going to have them in our chicken noodle soup. I bought them because I was thinking about making a vichyssoise with the leeks, which is a chilled leek and potato soup. But we opted for chicken noodle soup. So we've got 1 whole stalk of celery pretty much. I had used a little bit of it before to make, I think, potato salad or something. So we've got our celery in here, lots of celery. Even if you don't like celery, put whole stalks in that you could fish out at the end, because the celery adds such a wonderful, subtle flavor to the broth. It gives it more body that makes it so much nicer. I'm going to take 1 whole yellow onion, and I'm going to dice that up. I'm going to put that in there as well. Just take off this whole thing. And so between the celery, the onions, and the leeks, it's just going to have a really fragrant broth. It's going to be so delicious. I will say chicken noodle soup is one of my specialties. It's whenever any of my friends or anyone I know gets sick, they're like, can you make me your chicken noodle soup? And part of it is you got to use chicken thighs. It helps make a rich broth. And then the onions and the leeks and the celery add a whole things. But really the special part is the noodles that I use you get them in the freezer section, but they're home style noodles. So it's as if you did all the effort to make your own noodles. They taste just like that. They don't get soggy in the soup, but that's what really makes this chicken noodle soup so good. Okay, we've got our onions chopped up. Now we've got our carrots. We're going to have to give them a quick peel, and then we'll dice them up and add them in there. And this is, as I said, these are like the veggie base for it. So it's just a really simple chicken noodle soup. It's not, I feel like growing up, the 90s chicken noodle soup was either out of a can or it was with a bag of mixed vegetables in it. I feel like mixed vegetables were like the 90s vegetable. But these are not like that. Much more homey. Okay. This is a very long and skinny carrot. Get these peeled up. Pop them in here. And if you're using whole carrots like this, you really do have to peel them. This outer skin of it, it dries out and it has a very woody texture to it, and it doesn't have as nice of a flavor. But when you peel it off, you have the really tender, sweet part of the carrot left, which just gives you a much better product. Tastes much nicer. It's more, it'll cook up better. Okay. We're just about done with this. Then we're going to give our meat a stir here. And we'll add in our marinara. And that will be the tomato base. And then we'll be ready to assemble our lasagna. Okay. So let me slide this out of the way. I'm going to grab a baking sheet out here. We'll use this one since that was the one we didn't use for our lasagna. I'm going to pull out my chicken here so it can start to cool off. Whew, I'm about to sneeze. There we go. Oh, thank you. Okay, we're going to pull my chicken. I've got 2 split chicken breasts in here and then a bunch of thighs. The thighs will give you a lovely chicken broth for your chicken noodle soup. If you're going to make chicken noodle soup, use chicken thighs. I use breasts to give you a bit more meat, but the thighs are what's going to give you that like velvety, luxurious broth. Okay, do I have them all out? One more. And then the trick to get them to cool down fast is to rip off this skin. That skin is going to act like an insulator and it will keep your chicken hot even like 30 minutes later. But if you rip it off, it will be cool enough to shred in about 10. Let's see if this one, there we go. But you want to keep the skin on while you're boiling it because you're going to get that fat out of there, which is going to add so much flavor to your broth. There we go. So we've got that skin pulled off. And while this, we're going to add in, remember we chopped up our carrots, our onions, and our celery. We're going to add this to our chicken broth here.
How many dinners are you making tonight?
So this is 4 dinners, which will be probably 2 nights for them each, if not. So 4 big dinners. We did make 4 mini loaves of lasagna, so that's a lot more than that. But we're 4 different meals. Okay, I'm going to give this a stir. We're going to let this cook up for just a second and get those nice and tender. I'm going to turn my soup down to about a medium, and we're going to let this kind of cook up. I'm going to turn my soup up here, get it to a good boil, and then we're going to put our noodles in for our chicken noodle soup. So here are my lovely leeks. These are going to add so much great flavor to our chicken noodle soup. Just going to cut off the heads of them, but we're going to still use this white part. It's going to be great. It has a lot of onion flavor to it. It's more mild, but so lovely. We're going to slice them. We're going to give them a good rinse because even though these said they were chopped and cleaned, leeks are always very dirty. They're always full of a lot of sand. So you always want to give them a good wash. Doesn't matter how clean they look on the outside. You're going to find, see, that when they get in there, they're always dirty. And the only way you can clean them is after you chop them up because it's just impossible to get into all those little crevices. So I'm going to use, these are kind of 3 smaller leeks. You can use like 2 really big ones, work well. There we go. So we've got that. I'm going to grab my colander here. But you see, you just, no matter what you do, you can't get that dirt out unless you cut them up. So I always say cut them up and then wash them, wash them, wash them. Leeks are lovely, but they need a lot of cleaning. Okay. So we're going to rinse these. And let all of that, you really want to get your hands in there. There we go. My sink is getting full of so many dishes. What happens when you cook for 4 meals at a time. Okay. We should be good. Okay. We're going to be putting those in our chicken noodle soup, but we're going to add in our noodles first and let those cook up, and then we'll add the leeks in. So these are the noodles I was talking to you about. These are the best noodles ever. You get them in the freezer section where you buy the frozen pasta. They're so good. They taste just like home style noodles. There we go. So I'm going to add that in. And I'm going to give it a good mix. Let those boil. I'm going to add in my leeks now. And we're going to mix it in. Now, I know it feels like a lot of leeks, but they do shrink down and they're going to have so much flavor. Here we go. Now, we're going to shred our chicken and add it in here. You're just going to discard any of the chicken skins because you don't want those in your soup, but you wanted them to make our broth. But since we took them off, our chicken is nice and cold, so it'll be perfect to shred. So the thighs, dark meat is lovely in soups. It keeps its shape. It has a lot of rich flavor. So I'm just going to kind of pick it up, debone it, and then we'll just place it in our soup as we go. There we go. And I will say, chicken thighs are the best for soups. They really make a lovely broth, and that chicken thighs are a darker meat, so they hold together better. I have 2 split breasts here because they're a bit meatier, but they don't quite. They shred a bit more when they're in their soups. There we go. And just pulling off any bone or fat. Luckily, when you've boiled them long enough, they should come off the bone fairly easy. And you can always, if you want to go the easy route, you can always buy rotisserie chicken and shredded. The only problem is if you do that, your broth is never going to be as good. It's really hard to replicate the good broth that you get from cooking up the chicken skins. There we go. Pull out this bone, the cartilage. And we'll add that in here. And I will say, I know it's not really chicken noodle soup weather, but this is one of their favorite meals. They love chicken noodle soup, and it's an easy meal to make, and it stores well. Okay, now we've got our breasts. These are split breasts, which means they have the rib cage on them. So you just avoid those bones, but they yield a lot of meat. There we go. And see how easy they shred? And one, pull this bone off. And then we're going to shred this in there, and then we'll be finishing up our little veggie dish over here. Here we go. Okay, I'm going to go wash my hands real quick, and then we'll mix that in. Okay, we're going to give this a nice dunk down, and then you kind of just pour it over, and voila. We have our scrumptious chicken noodle soup loaded full of leeks, celery, carrots, onions, and a really lush broth with those kind of frozen egg noodles, which are so